I'd like to bring to order the Butte-Silver Council of Commissioners regular meeting for Wednesday, June 16, 2021. Clerk, could we please have a roll call?
10 present, 2 absent.
10 present, 2 absent. Please note that Commissioner Shaw and Commissioner O'Neill are excused from tonight's meeting. Commissioner Storage, can we do the prayer and the pledge?
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive, fellow commissioners. Almighty God, we implore you, look upon us and guide us this night as we make decisions which will greatly affect our community of Butte-Silver Bow. Direct our thoughts, words, and deeds so that we please you and best serve our fellow citizens. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next on the agenda, we do the approval of the minutes. Commissioner Frederickson.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. At this time, I move to approve the minutes from the June 2nd, 2021 regular meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Anything on the question? Could commissioners please vote? And would anyone like to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote. Ten yeas, 0 nay. Motion passes. Next on the agenda is items not addressed on the agenda. We do have one item, suspension of the rules. So Commissioner Frederickson.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. In accordance with provisions of Section 6 of Rule 6 of the Rules of Business of Council of Commissioners of the City and County of Butte-Silver Bow, State of Montana, the Council hereby finds that an emergency condition exists which requires that the Council rules be suspended to allow communication 2021-297 to be added to the agenda of the regular meeting of the Council. The reason for the suspension is as follows. Communication number 2021-297 is a communication from Bill Melvin, Civic Center Manager, requesting the Council authorize the Chief Executive to sign a professional service agreement with WET for the design of the Civic Center parking lot. Although this communication was submitted by the deadline for the June 16th, 2021 agenda, it was inadvertently not placed on the agenda. Based upon the foregoing and in order to allow this matter to be acted upon, the Council hereby finds that an emergency exists which requires the suspension of the Council rules to add communication number 2021-297 to the agenda for the June 16th, 2021 regular meeting. I move to approve the suspension of the rules to consider placing communication number 2021-297 on the agenda at the June 16th, 2021 regular meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Anything on the question? Could commissioners please vote? And would anyone like to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
10 yeas, 0 nay.
10 yeas, 0 nay. Motion passes. Moving on to Chief Executive's report. Looks like we're going to have a busy agenda tonight, so I'll keep it short. Lots of things happening within the community, a lot of energy, and with the sun shining, the parks are opening, pool open, a lot of great things happening in the community right now. We had our very first ARPA meeting to start talking about the funding sources that we're looking at and what we're going to do with that. That's more to come. And then a little bit on the consent decree. Probably the next thing that we will be addressing will be the repository, and they'll be meeting soon. We will have that date listed out, and Commissioner Sorich, along with a couple community members, Butte-Silver Bow, department heads from the Department of Environmental and Department of Reclamation, Environmental. I always screw that up. will be on board along with myself, and so there'll be more to come on that. So with that, I'm just going to close that out, and we'll move on to any public comment on any items on the agenda tonight. So if anyone would like to speak on anything on the agenda tonight, please come forward, state your name and address, and what item that you'll be speaking on. And there'll be a button that you can just touch that'll turn on, and you'll see the red light. There you go.
Chief Executive, County Commissioners, my name is John Slickenmeyer at 2715 Goodwin. I'm calling, forgive me. I'd like to talk about the agenda that Michelle put on the agenda, number 25, in regards to looking at amending or adding to ordinances, mostly related to drug houses, and making it easier for our chief of police and our officers to be able to do their job properly. We've been dealing with a drug house in the neighborhood for over 8 years, and we just finally now got it taken care of. But that's one of two that we have. It has not been an easy process. Most of us have been dealing with it for over 5 years, trying to remove it, and it has not been easy. I asked the commissioners to at least look at this and look into what we can do to fix this. It should not take 5 to 8 years to remove a house that's a drug house. If this gets moved to the Judicial Committee, I'll be more than happy to supply other ordinances from other cities that actually have this ordinance in place. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Suckemeyer. Anyone else that would like to speak on any items on the agenda tonight? Please state your name and address on the item you'll be speaking on. Yeah, you'll notice a red button, or the red light will turn on. There you go, you had it. There you go. Yep.
How about now? So this is the first meeting I've been to. Appreciate that it's public. Makes it pretty easy for me. I moved here in October. My name's Andrew Hare.
Can you give us your name and your address, please?
My name's Andrew Hare, and I live on Evans Ave. Do you need the number?
That's fine. Evans Avenue
Okay.
is fine.
So moving here in October, I joined a Facebook group called Butte 411, and there was a post on there that said that there was a meeting here at 7:30. And I think it's regarding to what the previous gentleman was up here for. And I wrote a few words, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So, first off, I want to say I'm not a lawyer. I'm a regular American citizen. This is just my opinion and my observation of someone who's lived here since October. Are these properties we're talking about nuisance properties or public nuisance properties? Because from a quick research, the definitions are completely different. I think we need to be very careful of our word choice when it comes to ordinances and laws and requests for revisions of existing ones. If these properties are causing a nuisance, then by definition it's a person or thing or a circumstance causing an inconvenience or annoyance. But if these properties, for example, are public nuisances, then they are by legal definition an act or condition or thing that is illegal because it interferes with the rights of the public generally. Or if, so right off the bat, we're talking about are we talking about properties that are annoying to people, or are we talking about properties that they're infringing on the rights of other people that live here? Those are two totally different things with two totally different outcomes, one potentially with charges and one with not. So we need to be careful because the laws nowadays, they're meant to be so general to be ridiculously interpreted later on down the road. I don't think we're specific enough, and we need to be deadly accurate when we're talking about ordinances and laws that affect people by the law, even for a moment. We're talking about, and this is just from my observation because this has only been to my attention for the past couple hours. And from the research I've been able to do, it seems a lot more than the person it originated from, which is unfortunate. One solution being proposed is abatement. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but from what I can find, that means the removal or control of an annoyance. Okay. I understand that there are probably some heated topics between neighbors that just make bad relationships, and that's fine. But don't bring the whole town together to discuss if somebody should be able to call the cops and have private property removed from the rightful owner because what was happening on said property was annoying. That's ridiculous. Where's the accountability for the people that want to essentially overthrow the foundation of an American right to own property, to love your own land? If somebody is annoyed, I understand, but it doesn't give you the right to have such an invasive ambition into other people's lives. If there are LED lights and people screaming and yelling at 2 a.m. every other night, okay, maybe we need a sound ordinance or something. But instead of agreeing on the immediate idea of mass punishment in a new ordinance, let's take it case by case. Let's say, okay, we have X amount of complaints where police were called. Let's see what the real problem is instead of just adopting mass punishment for no one involved. They claim that this is to give law enforcement agencies another tool. I think the last thing our government needs is another tool to be in our lives in an unconstitutional capacity, taking away property that was rightfully bought and owned. I respect the officers that do their job right, follow the Constitution, and question corrupt leadership. But if the issue is the police aren't charging these people who should be charged, then let's address that, not taking property away from rightful owners who had nothing to do with it. If this is an issue because there is no noise ordinance, then why don't we have, like I said before, every situation, come to the table, evaluate what the actual issue is from an independent third-party evaluation instead of just taking it from a citizen's point of view, one size sample. We don't need laws because one or two people are annoyed by their neighbor. We might need a noise ordinance. Okay. My assumption of this party's intent, not your party's, the party that brought the issue up, as of today, 5:41, they responded on their own Facebook post saying, "You are right, but if the owner is not willing to work to fix the problem, they should lose the right to own that property through the court system." Are you insane? What was the problem? What solution was suggested? How much time was given? All these things need to be answered to even have a sensible conversation or evaluation into the situation. This is a plain as day attempted abuse of our justice system. Let's keep the America we were at least given as children. Then we can work on taking back the true constitutional originalism back. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else that would like to speak on an item on the agenda? Again, please say your name and address. Thank you. And the item you'll be talking on. And then there's if you touch a button, it'll turn the light on.
Here?
Yep,
Is
there
that
you go.
right? Did I do it?
Yep.
Hi, I'm Andre O'Shea, and my address is 1135 Caledonia here in Butte. Unfortunately, I had to move back to one of my previous homes. I do love the home, but it was because I did live on Goodwin. So about a year ago, about a year and a half ago, in 2017, right before right at Christmas time. We moved in right next door to this first drug house that's been a problem for anywhere from 6 to 8 years. We were not given any disclosure whatsoever from any realtors, from the person actually selling the home, who was a police officer in New York, didn't even disclose to us. And the only people who came to disclose to us were my amazing neighbors in the back row there that I'm so happy to see today, that all live on Goodwin, because they're amazing people who finally came and told us the truth about what was going on over there. With respect to the gentleman that just spoke, the Montana Code Annotated is very clear on public nuisance laws and private nuisance laws. But I'll just read with what he stated. A public nuisance is a condition that endangers safety or health, is offensive to the senses, and in that regard, I'd like you to keep in mind your ears, your eyes, your nose, of course, or obstructs the free use of property so as to interfere with the comfortable enjoyment of life or property by either an entire community, neighborhood, or any considerable number of persons. Now, if you get to the private part of it, on number 2 of this public nuisance thing, in respect to what he said, in number 3, an act that affects an entire community or neighborhood or any considerable number of persons as specific in subsection 1A that I just talked about is no less a nuisance because the extent of the annoyance or damage inflicted upon individuals is unequal. So yes, we lived there for a year in pure hell. We put up cameras all over the house. We have a whole phone tree. Thank God. These neighbors were amazing. We had to leave with severe PTSD. The police were there every day. And you know, I had at the time a 6-year-old child that could not even use the full yard. I wouldn't even let him use the full yard because I was so scared to death. We had so much, I don't even know what's going on there now. I can't even imagine how they're dealing with it now because they have 2 houses. And we're talking not a neighborhood, we're talking the same block area of like 5 or 6 houses. This is going on. So there's 2 houses right in that same block area. So out of every month in that, so the poor police officers and poor Sheriff Lester, I don't know if he's here today, and Michelle, who had to deal with us a lot, and myself, you know, I think I called them probably on average 25 days out of 30 a month. And the poor dispatchers, oh my God, thank you dispatchers so much for your help. Thank you police officers. They were amazing, but they couldn't do what they needed to do because either ordinances and codes, and forgive me, I really don't know the difference, ordinances or codes addressed to this Montana law were not written to help them. So can you imagine the amount of tax dollars it took? And I was only there a year. Imagine with these guys, 6 to 8 years, every day the police showing up. How many tax dollars that is? These ordinances that I have here written both in Seattle and Spokane are crystal clear, and they do go, again, addressing respectfully the gentleman who spoke, they are on a case-to-case basis. You just put them in place, of course, and then they are based completely on an individual basis. Yes, does someone need to, you have to, like any court case, you have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt whether someone loses their home or not. And then they even have time to fix the situation. You know, so if they can fix the situation, they have time. And who knows what a judge chooses, you know? A judge might choose they have more than one chance. But this has been going on for 6 to 8 years. And you know, I have notes, if you need to see them, from my doctors and my therapists, you know, saying, get the hell out of there. We spent $26,000 on a deposit. We were buying it finance, you know, owner finance, but through his realtor, and again, not disclosed anything, and we gave him $26,000, and we had to walk away from that. And then other people bought it right away, and we heard, now this is just hearsay, but we heard that it wasn't disclosed to them either. They bought it really fast. I had notified some realtors about the problem because I was scared, you know, if you bring your clients there, just know. But I also said, I'm sure that realtor disclosed it, because Who would put someone in that situation? Who would put a 6-year-old child in a situation where I had to call Dan Blando every day to say, is this guy one of your, and you know Dan, of course you guys know who Dan Blando is, he's awesome, great parole officer. I called all the probation officers, I said, and I'm a licensed addictions counselor, so I knew what was going on. We also have 180 videos showing very suspected, you know, obvious, some very obvious, but, you know, you can't see pills, but you see handoffs of things, and then, of course, we did catch him on obstruction of justice. But we did all that work. We did all those hours. Who do I get to bill? We did thousands. I can't imagine how many hours they've done. We did, with these ordinances put into place, you get, and this, imagine in Seattle or Spokane, and I don't know how much time, if I have only a certain amount of time to talk, I'm sorry. I'll try to make this short, but in Seattle or Spokane, where these ordinances are, and I'll read the ordinances to, you know, just quickly to you, where they've adopted these ordinances, they get 3 chances in a 60-day period. 3 chances that a nuisance, if a nuisance has occurred. A nuisance is just if the police show up at their house. So if the police have a good probable idea that there's something going on there and they actually show up, that proves a nuisance. They showed up almost every day for a year for me. And so if they showed up 3 times, so I called them and I'm glad he said the noise ordinance, I'm all for that, let me tell you. But our police officers come and help us out with noise anyway, with dogs and noise, they come out and do that already. But these ordinances are pretty simple, and they're the same for both. You know, I guess it's ironic that they're both in Washington, but Spokane's about the closest place I could find. But I do know that Montana has, some different cities in Montana have adopted different ordinances for these types of things. So I will state a case of nuisance. It's ironic because it goes back to 1925, and it was during Prohibition. So it's ironic that it's hard because we are one of the only states who, we have a lot of nuisance cases here, but they were based on, you know, whether a fence was moved one way or another on someone's property or whatever, or whether, you know, someone had chemicals out that were causing issues for the other person. We don't have a lot about drug dealers. We do in, like I said, possibly Missoula and Bozeman, but this one is almost perfect because it's about a liquor house and a prostitution house. And it's about the nuisance it caused. I won't read the whole thing to you, but, you know, of course, the illegal liquor was causing nuisance issues. They use the word nuisance. The prostitution, of course, was causing, and in 1925, they abated the building, the entire building. So that's a Montana case from the Supreme Court in 1925. It is, if you want to know exactly the Supreme Court case, it is Lammy versus Young, and it's just ironic that it's during Prohibition, but you think about illegal drugs and illegal activities constantly going on there. So some of the things that I had heard about while I was there, you know, I'll just give you some examples of nuisance. So here's some small nuisance things that happens to us.
I don't want to cut you totally off.
Oh, that's okay, yeah.
We do need,
Yeah.
usually we give 3 minutes.
Sure,
If you
sure.
could just wrap up.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
You're good.
Yeah,
Go ahead and
but I
wrap
will
up.
just let you know, just real quick, as I'm walking away. So just some examples of nuisance that have happened in that neighborhood that they could reiterate. Of course, we've had shots fired in that neighborhood. We've had right there. That almost hit a house. It was a miraculous thing that it didn't. We had a baby right next door. I have on camera people peeing outside just right in broad daylight. We had someone back up and hit somebody else's house. Nothing done about that. Those were just little tiny things that have happened, let alone the constant, drug dealers there and having to call parole. But I do have great examples if you're interested in how to write either codes or, codes or ordinances, however you want to do it, that we just say, please, if anything, I'll finish by saying, please, I guess, I don't know what the word is, but please take the law of Montana, which is very clear, and think about our children, And if we have to break ground as minors here, if this is new ground in Montana, then let Butte do it. Butte is the breaking ground place. Let us do it. Let's break that ground. Let's get these nuisance ordinances done so that for our children, they don't have to deal with this anymore. And for the police and for everyone else that won't have to show up 1,000 times. And I promise you, it'll save taxpayer dollars. And if nothing else, remember that this brings property values down. So if even ethical or moral values don't help you, remember that tax dollars go down in these places. So when we're having such a huge realty skyrocketing, well, you can't raise taxes in a drug dealing neighborhood. So if money is what helps you, then get those drug dealers out. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Mrs. O'Shea. Anyone else that would like to speak on any item on the agenda tonight?
Hi. So my name's Kevin Corbett. I live at 2701 Goodwin Street. We moved in there in 2018. We're all talking about the same neighborhood. What we're asking for is help for the police officers, the court system. This is not a nuisance case where somebody's having a party once a month or anything. This is a nuisance case that goes on daily and nightly. We have cars parked in our yard, blaring music, cars running up and down the alleys, people climbing out of cars, running into this house with backpacks, running out of the house and then flying down the alley. This is the nuisance that we're talking about. This is what we've lived with from 2018. This is what we're asking for help. We have grandkids. We don't let them play in the yard very often because of this. They've broken into a boat in my yard, and I had $11,000 worth of stuff stolen out of it. And I'm not saying it's necessarily the people that live there, but that's the kind of people it's bringing into the neighborhood. We've had a truck parked in our yard that was actually stolen 15 minutes before I found it. They just backed it right into my yard, got out, locked it, took the keys. This is the kind of nuisance that we're talking about. What changed it recently was the cops in town have changed their policies a little bit, and they've actually sat in front of our house in our neighborhood every day, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, and they're arresting people, doing whatever they need to do, trying to get people out of the neighborhood. The grandparent of this house that we're talking about that's been so bad found out, and he actually had her removed, boarded it up, put no trespassing signs on the house, but now they're right down the street at another house that they've been running back and forth to. This is the kind of help we're asking for you guys to look at, see what we can do, so we can help the police, the sheriff, and the lawmakers in this town make it better. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Corbett. Would anyone else like to come forward and speak on an item on the agenda tonight?
Hi, my name is Keisha Gear. I live at 2647 Goodwin, also neighbors of these lovely people, and in her old house that she was talking about. I also was not disclosed during the sale that this was a drug house that I was moving 4 feet from. I've owned this house for almost a year, and I have numerous videos, recordings. We have people who are operating vehicles with stolen license plates. Nobody probably has insurance. They don't have legal license plates. 10, 15 cars come and go from this house every day. Thankfully, like Kevin said, in the last month, cops have been sitting outside of our neighborhood. I think they've made at least 15 arrests on outstanding warrants. The grandfather of the house next door to me has it now boarded up. There are no trespassing signs. But these two houses in our neighborhood are just an activity of constant coming and going. And it's really unsettling to not feel safe in your house at night. You know, we wake up at midnight to windows being smashed in next door, you know, and it's like, these people may not work, but most everybody else in the neighborhood holds down jobs. So I'm with Kevin in that we're asking for help on these houses that are known to be drug houses. You know, we have coming and goings every day, and just in the last month, since the cops have been able to sit into our neighborhood, they have obviously made great progress. You know, like I said, 15 people have gone to jail or been arrested on outstanding warrants. So that's what we're asking for in section, you know, number 25 is we're asking for letting the cops do their job when it comes to these houses, because, you know, it's our sleep that's getting disrupted. You know, it's our property that's getting damaged or stolen. I've had multiple people threaten my property for asking them not to ride a four-wheeler across my front yard. I've been woken up at 4:30 in the morning to somebody parked on my front yard and an officer asking me if I wanted the car removed. So, you know, as a great neighborhood outside of these two houses, we are just asking for the cops to be able to, you know, address our concerns when it comes to not feeling safe in our neighborhood. So I want to thank Michelle Shea for even proposing this, because, you know, it's something that I feel like our neighborhood has already even seen some progress with the police activity that's been there recently. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Gear. Anyone else like to speak on an item on the agenda tonight?
Oh, thank you. First meeting, Cassandra Smith, 2400 St. Anne Street. And I have some concerns like a lot of other people, and every neighborhood has their own drug house. I mean, drug addicts need somewhere to live too. So I think, you know, to change some of the ordinance to maybe keep some of the problems at bay, so people aren't parking on our lawns, their dogs aren't attacking us, maybe to slow down some of that traffic, not necessarily kick the drug addicts out. Drug addicts need somewhere to live too. But maybe kind of more keep those problems, like, you know, there's a consequence, you know, when you're constantly harassing your neighbors. Maybe not necessarily boot them out, but a good idea to maybe change the ordinances so they're a little bit more clear, to be helpful to the neighbors, so that neighbors aren't being harassed, their property's not being damaged, packages aren't being stolen. These are a lot of common things we have in my neighborhood as well, just a few blocks away. And that's kind of all. I just think it's a great idea. We have, I know this isn't exactly totally city, but one of our neighbors, we have a problem with their dog, who has viciously attacked me and some of my family members on multiple occasions. But because she jumps into our yard to do it, it becomes a private matter, and there's nothing that can be done by animal control because she attacked me on my own property or inside my house. So it's just things like that that would be helpful for ordinances to just kind of help the community, not necessarily kick them out, like I said, just kind of keep them like, hey, your dog's, you know, you need to keep your dog under control, or, you know, you're stealing packages, you know, kind of just keep them to be more civil. If they want to do drugs, then they can just do their own business. It's not my business if they do drugs, but it is my business when they're damaging my property or stealing my things or their dog's attacking me, things like that. So I think some revision, and it should be a case-by-case basis, not just everyone's treated the same. My neighbor, I was annoyed because my neighbor parked in my spot, or I was annoyed because my neighbor had a get-together, not those kind of nuisances. So definitely on a case-by-case basis, and it's everywhere. Every neighborhood has a drug house, so it's pretty common. Just maybe more keeping it at bay, not necessarily kicking people out because they're a nuisance. That's kind of all I had to say.
Thank you, Mrs. Smith. Would anyone else like to speak on an item on the agenda tonight? Seeing none, we'll move on to written comments to be read into the record.
One letter regarding item 25, communication 2021-296. It was submitted by Sally Dwyer. Dear Butte-Silver Bow Council of Commissioners, this letter is pertaining to the constant nuisances and disruptive behavior that occur on the 2600 block of Goodwin Street in Butte, Montana. I have not experienced as much as those that live on Goodwin, but I live a half a block away on Evans Avenue. I have seen the rapid deterioration of 2 homes on Goodwin for the past 3 years. I've resided at my location on Evans Avenue for over 25 years, but this activity a half block from me for the past 3 years is terrorizing this neighborhood. There is constant nightly noise from vehicles in the middle of the night and cars racing down Porter Street from Goodwin and continuing on to Evans Avenue. I'm afraid to walk down with my grandchildren to Father Sheehan Park because of the 2 homes on Goodwin. I've seen a robbery of my neighbor's car right next door to me and on my camera from an individual that walked from Goodwin Street to Evans Avenue. The perception of these 2 homes on Goodwin is that they are drug houses. There are constant cars, some from out of state, that arrive in the middle of the night with individuals that enter these homes, stay shortly, and then leave. There surely is drug activity at these locations. Please know I have seen the increased patrol from the police department on Goodwin and Evans Avenue. I've spoken to these officers and told them how much I appreciate their help in this regard. Please help to pass more restrictive ordinance to resolve some of this disruption in our neighborhood. Thank you sincerely, Sally Dwyer, 2710 Evans Avenue. And that's it.
Thank you. All right, moving on to section 1, bid openings, public hearings, presentations, and/or petitions. We have a couple bid openings. We'll start with communication number 2021-260, Angie Mulligan, Public Works Budget Analyst, requesting Council Commissioner for time on June 16th, 2021 Council of Commissioners regular meeting to open bid for dog kennels for the animal shelter. County Attorney, do we have proof of publication?
Mr. Chief Executive, there is proof of publication for both bid openings tonight, and both appear to be in order.
Okay. And do we have Angie Mulligan present? Oh, I'm sorry, John. Director Moudray.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. It's Assistant Director, Community Enrichment, John Moudray, M-O-O-D-R-Y. There was a little bit of an issue with this bid. It was delivered to the courthouse to the wrong office. It was opened at that office, but then we did make sure that the bid was put back to the clerk and recorder's office immediately. There is only one bid for the new kennels, so I will open it.
And Mr. Chief Executive, there is a bid bond in the amount of 10% from a licensed surety company that appears to be in order.
Thank you.
Mr. Chief Executive, members of the council, we do have a total on the bid of $75,290.29.
So that's $75,290.29. Is that correct?
That's correct, $75,290.29. And it is submitted from Shoreline Incorporated, and they are a corporation out of Kansas City. Oh, okay. Out of Kansas City, Kansas.
Thank you. Commissioner Frederickson.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. I'll make a motion to refer this back to Community Enrichment for their recommendation back to this council.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have anything on the question? Could commissioners please vote?
Yes. What's that?
And would anyone like to change their vote? And clerk, please record the vote.
They never gave an engineering estimate, did
10 yea, 0 nay.
10 yeas, 0 nay, motion passes. Moving on to our second bid order opening, communication number 2021-263, Mark Neary, Public Works Director, requesting council commissioners for time on the June 16, 2021 council commissioners regular meeting to open bids for materials for the 2021 water main replacement projects. Director Neary. Oh, I'm sorry, County Attorney Joyce. Okay, you got them for both? Okay, Director Neary.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. For the record, I'm Mark Neary, Public Works Director. It looks like we have 3 bids. The first one is from Montana Water Works and Irrigation out of Billings.
Assume that's 10. Mr. Chief Executive, there is bid security in the form of a cashier's check in the amount of 10% of the bid that appears to be in order.
Thank you, County Attorney Joyce.
Chief Executive Gallagher, fellow commissioners, the total price on this one is $374,959 even, $374,959.
$374,959.
The second bid is from Corin, Maine, out of Missoula, Montana.
Okay.
Where's the blade?
Mr. Chief Executive, there is a bid bond in the amount of 10% from a licensed surety company that appears to be in order.
Thank you, County Attorney Joyce.
On the back of that, maybe? Are you still looking for the bid amount?
Chief Executive Gallagher, the total on this is $358,504.90. $358,504.90.
$358,504.90.
Let me make sure. $358,504.90.
Is that what I said? $358,504.90.
Yep.
Sometimes I stutter.
And the third bid is from Northwest Pipe and Fittings in Butte. Not that funny.
Mr. Chief Executive, there is a bid bond from a licensed surety company in the amount of 10% that appears to be in order.
Thank you, County Attorney Joyce.
Chief Executive Gallagher, the total is $358,843.27. $358,843.27.
$358,843.27. So, Commissioner Frederickson.
Thank you, Chief Executive. Director Neary, do you have an engineering estimate for the cost of this?
We do.
Yeah, Commissioner Anderson. Director Neary.
We're Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. Commissioner Anderson, we were speculating around $210,000, but pipe costs right now are through the roof. Not to any of these, it's the resin and everything else, but we're actually even having a hard time keeping a quote for more than an hour. So it's a tough time right now.
That's what I was figuring.
Yeah.
My brother's doing some construction work and the prices, so I was wondering how this was affecting.
We really weren't
this
even sure
project.
how to figure it out. We took a stab at it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Frederickson.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I move to direct this back to the Public Works Department for a recommendation to this council.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to move back to Public Works. Anything on the question? Could commissioners please vote? And would anyone like to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
10 yea, 0 nay.
10 yeas, 0 nay, motion passes. Moving on to our presentation for tonight, communication number 2021-262, Mark Neary, Public Works Director, requesting Council Commissioners for time on the June 16, 2021 Council Commissioners regular meeting for a presentation on countywide maintenance district work plan update for fiscal year 2021 and work plan for fiscal year 2022. Director Neary.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. For the record again, I'm Mark Neary, Public Works Director. As many of you remember, in 2018, we passed the maintenance fee district to implement, to supplement our maintenance district so we weren't kind of funding out of our road fund into our maintenance district. And part of the plan was every year I would give an update this time of year about what we did last year and what we have coming up for next year. Okay, that's weird. Okay, so, oh. Why can't I go backwards? Sorry. Okay, so last winter, we used 364 tons of salt and 1,736 tons of liquid de-icer on our streets. The total cost for that was just under $270,000. We plowed 65 miles of roads. We had 6,400 man-hours worked. The labor costs were around $245,000, and the equipment cost was around $180,000. On this map here is kind of our primary, secondary, and routes that are maintained by MDT. I don't think I need to go through every street, but how we do it is in a snowstorm, we hit our primary routes first, then our secondary, and then we try and move into neighborhoods if we can. But if a snowstorm starts in the middle of the secondary, we drop back to the primary routes, just kind of the way it goes. There is a list of all the streets that are on it. Those are our primary, the green are our secondary, and the blue are our roads maintained by MDT, not us. So they're the ones we're always getting the calls on. Just kidding on that too. As far as our sweeping and flushing, we swept and flushed 285 miles of roads. Of that was swept, 90 miles of roads were flushed, 5,417 man-hours worked. Total labor was around 203,000. Total equipment cost was around 195,000. Our pothole patching with the Durapatcher, since January 1st of 21, we've done 4,000 potholes. Up until May 31st, we had 11,332. 2,186 man-hours worked. Total labor cost was 82,000. Total equipment cost was 19,000. Total material cost was $101,000. Our numbers on the pothole patching are down a little bit from last year, but if y'all remember, we had trouble hiring summer help last year with we actually didn't, and then when we wanted to, we couldn't get anybody to come to work at that time, so. This is just kind of what we've done in the past. We have increased, but we also decreased a little bit. And not that that's a bad thing, because some of the reported ones, and I know there's still a lot of potholes out there, we have a lot to get, but I think we're knocking out a lot of the main ones, and we're not getting as many calls or reports on them. Our rural roads, we have 131 miles of rural roads that we maintain, 1,227 man-hours worked. Total labor was just under 49,000. Total equipment was around 35,000. So this is the total of what we did out of the maintenance within the maintenance district, which is flushing, patching, rural road maintenance, snow and winter maintenance, and sweeping. The total cost was 1.381, and what was funded out of this maintenance fund was 1.2, which, if you all remember, we're not fully funded yet because we're at the percentage. I can't remember what it even is at right now. So as of May 31st, these are our total cost. So we're just right around 1.2 before the end of the fiscal year here. Our proposed plan for next year is similar to it kind of stays the same. The amount of roads that we have for plowing is still 65. The neighborhood roads, will go in as we're able and when we can, and we'll de-ice and sand primary and secondary routes as needed. We plan for around 287,000 for de-icer and salt, 55,000 in overtime plan for snow removal. Estimated labor costs are around 245,000. Estimated equipment costs right around 180,000 again. Uh, 285 miles of roads will be swept, 90 miles of roads will be flushed. We're hoping to increase pothole repairs, rural road maintenance. Estimated labor costs will be around 203,000, and estimated equipment costs will be around 195,000. Just under 200,000 is planned for asphalt pothole repairs. Estimated labor is 85. Estimated equipment is around 20,000. We have 131 miles of rural road that we'll keep on maintaining. Estimated labor costs will be around 50,000. Total equipment costs around 35,000. So the proposed in 2022, I got a little ahead of myself, is right around just under 1.6 million. This sheet here are the projects that'll be paid for out of the 2110, the road fund, and it's just a list of streets here that we will pave this year. Some are connected to sewer projects, water line projects, and we can do more of these road projects because of this maintenance fund. Before, we were kind of taking the money from the road fund to subsidize the maintenance district, but now we're kind of getting both pots evened out, so things are working out better. With that, any questions?
Thank you, Director Neary. Any questions for Director Neary by commissioners? Commissioner Thatcher.
Thank you, Chief Executive. Thanks, Mark. I know I had asked you about this, like over the Fairmont Street area. Is that going back for another year? Remember how you said the sidewalk whole situation was up?
Commissioner Thatcher, Director Neary.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. Commissioner Thatcher, right now we are in design phase on that. We have WET is doing the engineering on it. We went out for an RFP, and we're not sure if it'll get done this year, but it's in the works to get done.
Thank you, Director Neary. Commissioner Sorge.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Mark, thank you for the presentation. As you probably well know, that's what we hear the most about are the streets. We get called quite a bit, and I was really glad to see that, the streets that are in my district are on the, like we had visited before, are on the radar. I guess are you fully staffed? Are you going to be able to
get it staffed? You know, you're saying something, you had a tough time last year. Are you fully staffed for this summer?
Commissioner Sorich, Director Neary.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. Commissioner Sorich, we are still having a tough time hiring summer help. I actually got approached the other day and says, how come you don't hire summer help anymore? And I said, we do. I mean, I don't know why people aren't applying for stuff, but we are. But we're close to fully staffed, but we're actually using our pothole patchers are actually putting out some of the rock waddles that you see like on Harrison Avenue and stuff, because we don't have enough people to do both. But we're still having a tough time getting summer help.
Thank you, Director Neary. Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you very much, Chief Executive. Thank you, Director Neary, for the presentation today. It is very helpful to us, and I'm sure the community appreciates your numbers and everything. And to actually see, you know, this is a great example because you're providing a very detailed account of where their money that they're giving the community is spent. And I really appreciate that. One of the things you mentioned is some of the spending that you're planning on doing with the road, and it's tied to sewer. So I want to kind of go back to the previous question I asked a few moments ago about the cost with inflationary costs and just materials and the scarcity. You know, finding help is way down. You know, I ordered contacts 3 months ago and I still haven't got them yet because of back order. And I see that problem with a lot of the equipment at my other work at the hospital. My brother's been running into delays and everything. Getting equipment, getting help, how is that going to impact the work that you're able to get done this year? And are we going to see some of the shortfalls with mag chloride and salt and other stuff for this coming winter, forecasting that far into the future?
Thanks, Commissioner Anderson. Director Neary.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. Commissioner Anderson, we're not sure what's going to entail. I mean, nobody really has an answer yet. These pipe prices, which we're aware of going out of, this is only for 10,000 feet. This is just for what we want to do, and this is just water line. We know that there is an issue, but that's why we'll refer it back. Commissioner Frederickson referred it back to Public Works, and we'll take a good look at it. If it's too expensive to do, we won't do it. We don't really have anything out there in our water line replacement that is life or death. Now, granted, we want to get as much done as we can when we can, but if it costs 2 or 3 times more than money, we might not do it. But as far as like some of these projects, like on Fairmont Street, it isn't a lot of pipe. It's, you know, it could be 2,000 feet of storm drain, which isn't a big, you know, I'm hoping that we'd be able to find that. I mean, out there at Copper Fox, I got piles of it laying all over. We could go out and take some of that if we need to. But no, that's a joke. But no, I think we're gonna have an easy time finding some stuff and a harder time finding other. But also with the ARPA funds and the infrastructure bill, it's all over the United States. So everybody in the United States is under the same, you know, we're under the same issues everywhere. But as far as hiring help for what we need, we have the help. We have all the help we need to do our sewer, storm sewer, and water line stuff. We run 2 Durapatchers during the summer when we have summer help. That's what I was talking about, having a tough time with help.
Thank you, Director Neary. Follow-up, Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you, Chief Executive. No, I was kind of thinking and help like other companies around the country in producing, you know, because a lot of these materials aren't being able to be produced. Have we seen any shortfalls in the supplies or asphalt that we're looking at for the summer? I know that we got a contract a while ago for some of this, but how has that been affected for the work we're looking forward to this summer?
Commissioner Anderson, Director Neary.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. Commissioner Anderson, I haven't heard any problems with asphalt.
Okay.
As of now, we started paving 3 weeks ago, and as of right now, we're not having any troubles getting asphalt.
Thank you, Director Neary. Follow-up, Commissioner Anderson.
Sorry, just on that, I saw the work that you guys did across from the Chester Steel Park, and it driving down there the other day, it's 100% better than it was 2 months ago. So thank you, thank you, thank you. It is a great improvement from all the potholes. So your crews did a great job, and thank you for your guidance and everything. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks, Commissioner Anderson. Director Neary. Any other questions of Director Neary? Thank you for the presentation tonight. Our Public Works Department does a great job, and so we appreciate all the hard work that they're doing. Okay. All right. Moving on to petitions. We have one petition, petition number 2021-01, Donald Swanson, Land Records Administrator, requesting Council of Commissioners authorization, authorize a petition to close and vacate an alleyway that has been filed with the Land Records Office of the Planning Department as provided for and within ordinance number 362. Commissioner Frederickson.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. I guess I'll make a motion to refer this to Public Works. I don't know, I've never done it.
Yeah, this is kind of new, but I think this is just to refer to Public Works, and then they will do a presentation to this.
All right, so yeah, that's my motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to move petition number 2021-01 to refer to Public Works. Anything on the question? Could commissioners please vote? I don't think it got, there you go. And would you like to change the vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
10 yea, 0 nay.
10 yeas, 0 nay, motion passes. Moving on to Section 2 consent agenda. We have Section A, 1 through 4, Section B, 1 through 25. Do we have any friendly amendments or segregations? Commissioner Sorge.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I would like to segregate number 7, 2021-278, and number 14, 2021-285, please.
Michelle, are you segregating 25?
Okay. Any other segregations? Commissioner Shea.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I would like to segregate communication number 25, number 2021-296.
Thank you. Any other segregations? Seeing none, do we need to put number 26 on from the?
No.
After, okay, my fault. Okay, Commissioner Frederickson.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I move to approve Section 2 of the consent agenda, A, 1 through 4, and B, 1 through 25, with the exceptions of 7, communication 2021-278, 14, communication number 2021-285, and 25, communication 2021-296.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Anything on the question? Could commissioners please vote? And would anyone like to change the vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
10 yea, 0 nay.
10 yeas, 0 nay. Moving back to communication number 2021-278, Commissioner Sorge.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I'm going to keep the recommendation as is to refer back to the Chief Executive's office, but I wrote this communication with the idea, I think it would be a good idea just to hear from a lot of these entities that are they were given Butte-Silver Bowl dollars. I think it's a great exercise in transparency, for these entities, to really come forward and just say what we're doing with the money. It also gives commissioners an opportunity to ask any questions, and also, maybe some of the new commissioners to meet some of the people that don't know who are in these groups. So again, I'm just going to keep the recommendation of refer to the Chief Executive's office. Thank you.
Just to report back, I have been reaching out to them. We just haven't had any schedule of time.
Oh,
okay. Follow up?
Follow up. Just one other thing. And I know that communication. I didn't mean to have all of the presentations all in one night. I'm thinking maybe one at a time. So we're not here.
Yeah, I'm just waiting to hear back for when they're going to schedule them.
Sure. Thank you.
So I think we have a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to refer back to the Chief Executive Office for communication number 2021-278. Anyone on the question? I think we're missing Commissioner Shea is not. Okay. There you go. Would anyone like to change the vote? And clerk, please record the vote.
10 yea, 0 nay.
10 yeas, 0 nay, motion passes. Moving on to communication, number 14, communication number 2021-285, Commissioner Sorge.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Director Gleason wrote this, and she wants to have put the budget in front of the Finance and Budget Committee, and the recommendation was to concur and place on file. I want to change your recommendation to have it be in front of the Finance and Budget Committee on July 7th, and that would be a regular meeting. And also, I would like the agenda to reflect that we were going to meet at 6:30 instead of 7 o'clock.
Okay. We have a motion.
And that's in the form of a motion.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to put this in front of the Budget and Finance Committee on July 7th and move the meeting from 7 o'clock to 6:30 p.m. Anything on the question? Commissioners, could you please vote? And would anyone like to change their vote? And clerk, can you please record the vote?
10 yea, 0 nay.
10 yeas, 0 nay, motion passes. Moving on to communication number 25 on the agenda, but communication number 2021-296, Commissioner Shea.
Would you like me to read the title of it?
No.
I
Or
can,
do we need to read the title?
I don't think we need to read the title. We can just,
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. As we heard tonight, and what we heard tonight is just a very, very minute portion of what I've heard for the last 2 years since I was elected. The people want us to do more for them to preserve their neighborhoods and their peaceful neighborhoods. I realize this is a complicated issue, and the things that they may want to do may likely be limited by Montana law. We don't know that until we start digging into it and figuring out what we can do, what we can't do, what we're allowed to do, what we should do, versus what we want to do. Everyone has an opinion on what should be done, and this body needs to kind of ferret out what the ordinance will look like. I think it's worth formally looking into by working through judiciary, the county attorney, law and code enforcement, and most importantly, the citizens, to see if there are provisions we could enact that will provide them some relief. I submitted this communication at the request of the citizens of District 2, but I do know, after talking to many of my peers here, that this is not unique to District 2, this problem. And as I said in my communication letter, it's no way intended to undermine or disparage our public servants in law and code enforcement, because every single time I have called them or any of the neighbors have called them, they've responded, and they've responded to the best of their ability with the tools that they've been given. I'm grateful for their service and their professionalism when they're called upon, and they always do a great job of keeping me and everybody in the loop with what's happening. So my hope is that we're able to do something. I don't know what. I do know that the answer is always no if you don't ask the question. And so it was my responsibility to ask the question on behalf of the citizens of my district and the people that elected, those of us that are elected. As I said, the ordinance is not written yet. We have to sort that language out, and that's really my purpose. Because this communication did not have a recommendation attached to it, I will make a motion to refer communication number 2021-296 to the Judiciary Committee for consideration.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to refer communication number 2021-296 to the judiciary. Anything on the question? Commissioner Reardon.
Thank you, Chief Executive. I'd just like to interject something here before we refer this back. And as I listen to this tonight, my district is suffering from the same issues that everybody has as Michelle, and I'm sure Mr. Anderson's district is had its fight or battle with everything. And I just wanted to reassure the people that these people up here on the council hear what your concerns on and are in agreement that something more has to be done to reaffirm how we're going to operate and control this problem that we have in Butte. We're going to put some work in on it, and hopefully we can get some things rolling faster than slower and all that. So I just want to thank Commissioner Shea and all the members of the commission for binding together and taking a look at this problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Reardon. Anything else on the question? Could commissioners please vote? And would anyone like to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
10 yea, 0 nay.
10 yeas, 0 nay. Moving on to communication number, let me find it on here, 2021-296, a communication from Bill Melvin, Civic Center Manager, requesting Council Commissioners authorize Chief Executive to sign a professional service agreement with WET for the design of the Civic Center parking lot. Although this communication was submitted, we all went through that before.
Sorry, Chief Executive Gallagher. It's communication 2021-297.
297, my fault. Thank you for the correction. Commissioner Frederickson.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. I make a motion to concur and place on file communication number 2021-297.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to concur and place on file communication number 2021-297. Anything on the question? Could anyone like to change their vote? And clerk, please record the vote.
10 yea, 0 nay.
10 yeas, 0 nay, motion passes. Moving on to section 3, ordinance and resolutions for second reading. We have a couple on here. Council Bill number 2021. Clerk, can you read the body?
Ordinance number 2021-05, an ordinance amending section 17.060.030 of Butte-Silver Municipal Code B-SBMC, which section adopted the zoning map of the Butte-Silver Bow, State of Montana, providing for a change to the official zoning district map by rezoning approximately 1.5 acres from R-2 to family residence to C-2 community commercial, commonly located between Park Street and Broadway Street, west of Ohio Street, located in the Baltic Lode, Section 13, Township 3 North, Range 8 west of the PMM of the City and County of Butte-Silver Bow, State of Montana, providing for the repeal of all parts of ordinances in conflict herewithin and providing for an effective date herein.
Commissioner Frederickson.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I move to place Council Bill number 2021-05, ordinance number 2021-05 on second reading.
A second.
We have a motion and a second to move Council Bill number, Council Bill number 2021-05, ordinance number 2021-05 on second reading. Anything on the question? Could commissioners please vote? Passed on second reading? Deemed passed on second reading. Okay, so it would be deemed passed on second reading. And clerk, could you please record the vote? 10
yea, 0 nay.
10 yeas, 0 nay, motion passes. Moving on to resolution number 2021-22. Clerk, please read the body.
A resolution extending the Special Tourism Business Improvement District Number 1 for the purpose of promoting tourism, conventions, trade shows, and travel to the city, county of Butte-Silver Bow, designating and describing the boundaries of said proposed Special Tourism Business Improvement District and providing for the effective date herein.
Commissioner Frederickson.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I move to place resolution number 2021-22 on final reading and passed, having been deemed fully read at length.
Second.
We have a motion to pass on resolution number 2021-22 passed on final reading. Anything on the question? Could commissioners please vote? Anybody who would like to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
10 yea, 0 nay.
10 yeas, 0 nay, motion passes. Moving on to the next agenda item, public comment on any public matter not on the agenda. This is a time where anyone in the public could come forward and talk about anything that is not on the agenda for tonight. If there is, please come forward, state your name, address. And clerk, we have one to be ready.
Yes.
Okay.
This one is from Aaron Lieber. Good morning. I live on Little Basin Creek Road. My husband and I saved for years to buy property out here. We understood at that time that the land surrounding us was zoned for residential use. As you probably know, there is a 1,600-acre solar farm being proposed on Mr. McDermott's land. This is to primarily generate power for the Bitcom company south of town. The solar company has said it will only have 10 to 8 permanent jobs from this endeavor. At 700,000 panels, this would be the third largest solar farm in the U.S. The top 10, all in desert landscapes. My husband and I have worked hard improving our property, spraying for noxious weeds, building a wildlife-friendly fence, and planting trees. Our savings has gone into our home and property. It does not seem just that one property owner could change the zoning in this beautiful area to benefit just himself. Living out here, I've seen firsthand the many animals that roam these 1,600 acres. Daily, I see elk, antelope, moose, and mule deer. I also see grouse and many other nesting birds. There is beautiful native grasses and sage plants that cover these 1,600 acres. It does not seem logical or just to change the zoning of this residential/agriculture area to benefit a small company that will create 8 to 10 jobs. I am in complete favor of green energy, but it needs to be in a well-planned area that is zoned for its use. If the solar farm was built outside of Butte, it would still generate those 8 to 10 jobs for Butte, as well as the possible temporary subcontracting jobs. But it would be in an appropriate commercial/industrial zoned area. I've even thought that it would be great out between Anaconda and Deer Lodge on the reclamated land. It would be a powerful statement putting renewable energy on top of mine waste reclaimed land. I have worked with Dr. John Pullman for 19 years and have built many wonderful relationships with Butte people. Over the last few weeks, I have not heard from one person that is in favor of the solar farm project. However, a few of them are nervous to stand up to the project because they work at the mine for the Washington family. Their son is an investor in the project. Or they are afraid of being blacklisted because they work construction or are on the police force, etc. It was very eye-opening to see this fear, so I feel it is up to me and people like yourself to speak against this for Butte residents. If this is approved, these 1,600 acres will be bulldozed, creating huge amounts of dust and noise pollution for an estimated 2 years. This area is larger than the Berkeley pit. The dust will threaten the health of many. The huge 12-foot-plus panels will ruin the beautiful scenery as you travel south of town, scarring forever the beauty of South Butte. I'm asking you to please support South Butte and those of Butte who do not feel they can speak up against the change in zoning. Thank you for your time and consideration. Respectfully, Aaron Lieber.
Thank you. Are there any other comments?
No other comments.
All right. Seeing none, we'll move on to just take note of the calendar and other meetings and events. And with that, I will take motion to adjourn.
So made.
We have a motion and a second, and we'll go with all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And we are adjourned.